Now available in paperback and Kindle, All About Marilyn. Learn all about the struggles of a faded former teen sitcom star in this absolutely fabulous 5-star screenplay. Get All About Marilyn in paperback and Kindle on Amazon.com today. One of my viewers wanted me to do another installment in the Hollywood Historical Women in Crisis series. And for this installment in the Hollywood Historical Women in Crisis series, I'm going to be talking about two Swedish actresses, Academy Award-winning actress Ingrid Bergman and actress Inger Stevens. All images in this video are used under fair use of United States copyright law of 1976 and are used in conjunction with my commentary. Now, the first Hollywood historical woman in crisis I'm going to be talking about is three-time Academy Award-winning actress Ingrid Bergman. Now, your Ingrid Bergman had a legendary and iconic career in Hollywood, starring in now considered to be classic films such as Spellbound, Casablanca, and The Bells of St. Mary's. And in spite of her legendary career, sadly, your Ingrid Bergman was a woman in crisis from an early age. Now, your Ingrid Bergman sadly started out on the road to becoming a woman in crisis at an early age because her mother wound up passing away when she was 2.5 years old, and as she was living with her father, being the only child because her two other siblings wound up dying in infancy, the father wanted her to be an opera star, and he sent her to private schools, and sadly, your Ingrid Bergman, she struggled in school, and the father also took pictures with her, dressing her up, and making her the center of attention. And sadly, her father wound up passing away at 14 years old. And as she wound up losing her parents at such an early age, it made her a woman in crisis who struggled to have healthy relationships with men and women. Now, your Ingrid Bergman was, after her father died at 14 years old, was sent to go live with her paternal aunt, who then died of heart disease 6 months later, and then was sent to another aunt. And again, seeing all of these different people passing away, this made it where your Ingrid Bergman, I believe, had a hard time being able to form healthy relationships because she feared that the relationship would end abruptly and she would lose control. This is something that was a big problem, I believe, what led to her struggling with her personal relationships. Even though she had great success as an actress, your Ingrid Bergman really struggled in her personal life as related to having relationships with men and women, and struggled as related to her marriage to her first husband. Now, your Ingrid Bergman, when she was rising as a star, wound up marrying a dentist, Peter Aaron Lindstrom, and as she married Peter Aaron Lindstrom, my mistake, he was a dentist who then came to America and then went out here and became a neurosurgeon. Now, your Peter Aaron Lindstrom, he wanted to go out here and be a head of household. He wanted to be the man of the house. Unfortunately, he found himself clashing with your Ingrid Bergman, who was a Hollywood star. And as this Hollywood star was going out here getting all of the attention, he could not go out here and assert authority over his home, and he could not go out here and set order over his wife. And because his wife was out here living as what they call today an independent woman, this man could not go out here and foster an interdependent relationship between himself and his wife. And as your Ingrid Bergman was out here getting attention from many of these different people in Hollywood, she was not respecting the authority of her husband, who was looking for his wife to go out here and serve him in the marriage, but she could not serve him in the marriage because she was too busy serving the entertainment industry. And as she served the entertainment industry, she was out here having a lot of affairs behind your Peter Lindstrom's back. And as she was having these affairs, this was again making your Peter Lindstrom feeling emasculated, and he decided to go out here and draw a line between her film and her personal life but your Ingrid Bergman kept violating those boundaries, having affairs with different actors and having these different affairs with these actors. And while your Petter became aware of these affairs, he didn't ask for a divorce because he liked the money she was making, but he didn't like the way he was being disrespected. And even though she was going on with these affairs, things just reached a boiling point when your Ingrid Bergman went out here and had a scandalous affair with Italian director Roberto Rossellini in 1950. And as she begged him for a divorce, your Petter was trying to keep his family together, but she then decided to go out. She then had a baby for your Roberto Rossellini, and this basically led to the divorce and the dissolution of the family of Ingrid Bergman's first husband. And then she went out here and married your Roberto Rossellini, and then had two more children, Isabella Rossellini and her twin sister, Isolta. And as she was out here with your Roberto Rossellini, your Roberto Rossellini thought he could go out here and build a family with your Ingrid Bergman, and he didn't really understand an adage that I learned many years ago, and that is, if she will cheat with you, she will cheat on you. And eventually that's exactly what happened with your Ingrid Bergman. As a woman in crisis, she did not know how to submit to a man in a relationship. She did not trust to submit to a man in a relationship. And because she did not trust to submit in a man in a relationship, she acted on her natural hypergamy, because your Roberto Rossellini was a more popular man than the neurosurgeon Peter Aaron Lindstrom. And this is why she went out here and monkey branched from your Peter Aaron Lindstrom over to Roberto Rossellini. And as she got with your Roberto Rossellini, sadly what happened to your Roberto Rossellini is that the relationship began to become toxic, because your Ingrid Bergman began hampering Rossellini from making the films he should be making. And she didn't like her friends because she feared that he would be going back to Hollywood, and she feared that because he had already got her through an affair, that he would go out here and get somebody else. So that was a fear that your Roberto Rossellini also had, as related to his wife, because he didn't understand that when you cheat with a woman, she's going to cheat on you. And sadly, that's exactly what happened with your Rossellini. He went out here and while he was holding a grip on your Ingrid Bergman, he went out here and got with this woman Sonali Dasgupta in India, and that's when the entire marriage wound up falling completely apart. Because again, when people cheat with people, they cheat on people, and that's what led to the complete deterioration of your Ingrid Bergman's second marriage. And then after this, she then got involved with Lars Schmidt, a theatrical entrepreneur, again participating in hypergamy, going out here and monkey branching from one man to the other, because this is what women in crisis go out here and do, because they don't know how to have a healthy relationship. And your Ingrid Bergman never knew how to have a healthy relationship with a man, because everybody who was supposed to be an authority figure early in her life wound up passing away. And because she did not know how to trust authority figures, she went out here not going out here looking to use people as tools to go from one area to the other. And again, went out here monkey branching from man to man, eventually winding up where all of her different relationships never really became anything of substance. I mean, she just reminds me a lot of many of the black women out here who were out here with different guys. And again, we see how this dysfunction starts early as related to your Ingrid Bergman, and how her dysfunction really went from one relationship to the other. And sadly, she wound up in dysfunction all throughout her life. And then eventually, when she got older, sadly, she wound up dying of cancer. And she died of cancer, a woman in crisis. And sadly, she wound up dying at 67 years old. And while she was there, many of her ex-husband was there. He drank a toast to her, and many people were with her on her last moment, but even with all those people around her, she was still, sadly, a woman in crisis. Now, the second Hollywood historical woman in crisis I'm going to be talking about is actress Ingrid Stevens. Now, your Ingrid Stevens was a very popular actress who appeared in many TV shows like The Twilight Zone, Bonanza, and many other television shows, and also had a series where she played the farmer's daughter. And she also starred in multiple movies with actors like Clint Eastwood and Walter Matthau, and managed to navigate a successful career between television and film, which was extremely rare. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to navigate a course in life and became a woman in crisis. Now, your Ingrid Stevens wound up on the road to becoming a woman in crisis when her family fell apart when she was very young. Now, your Ingrid Stevens' mother wound up abandoning the family and took Ingrid Stevens' brother with her, leaving her with her father. And as her father was out here looking to go out here and work towards a Fulbright scholarship to Harvard University, he moved to America. And as he was studying on that Fulbright scholarship, he eventually remarried and moved to Manhattan, Kansas, where he was out here teaching in a Kansas university. Unfortunately, your Ingrid Stevens was extremely unhappy, and I believe that your Ingrid Stevens was unhappy because she had mommy issues due to the abandonment that she had because the mother left the family, because a mother's bond with her daughter is something that builds a daughter's confidence, but unfortunately Ingrid didn't have that, and she also didn't have her emotional needs met by her father, who was busy working on academics. And I believe this is what led to your Ingrid Stevens becoming extremely unhappy, and this is what led to her possibly becoming extremely rebellious because she got so frustrated about her home life that she wound up running away from home and wound up in Kansas City, where she first worked as a waitress and then started working as a dancer in a burlesque show at 16 years old. Now, her father managed to track her down and brought her home where she graduated high school, but she did not stay long. She went to New York City shortly after, and when she went to New York City, she basically went there to try to build a career in the entertainment industry. And I believe she went to the entertainment industry because she was so miserable as related to her personal life that she wanted to get an escape through being an entertainer. And this is where she wound up meeting her first husband. And her first husband, Anthony Soglio. And this first husband, basically, I believe she got involved with him because he was like a father to her. And she was looking for that father figure that her father wasn't, because he wasn't physically or emotionally available for her because he was too busy working at that Fulbright scholarship and then also working in academia. And these academic men, they're usually emotionally detached. So she was looking for a relationship through this other man, Anthony Soglio, and this man was a Hollywood agent who put her under a contract and changed her last name to Stevens, and they were just married for just 4 months. Now, this divorce didn't finalize until 1958, and your Ingrid Stevens was out here. She was still married to this man, but she never really allegedly remarried anyone until the divorce ended in about 1958. And again, her problems with this man, Soglio, happened to be, the problem was she could not submit to a man because she had already had mommy issues and daddy issues. So she was not able to function in a marriage. And this man, who was her husband and her agent, he really could not really work with her in a relationship because your Ingrid Stevens basically had a lot of mommy issues as related to abandonment. She had daddy issues as related to not being able to foster a healthy relationship with her father. And this is what led to her not being able to function in a marriage and looking, as I believe it, to possibly escape in entertainment. And as she played different roles on different shows, this is how she wound up escaping many of her problems. And as she tried to escape many of her problems by playing these different roles, she tried to find solace in relationships with many of her leading men. blurring the world between fantasy and reality, and never really being able to connect with anyone. That was the big problem with Ingrid Stevens. She never really was able to go out here and be able to connect with anyone, and that is due to the dysfunctional way she was raised inside of that home with her father and without any sort of really healthy relationship. And again, she would have these work romances because she wanted to have a relationship with people as related to the actors, not understanding that these actors were playing a role. And this is what led to her becoming very deeply depressed over time. Now, after a while, she got involved with a black man, Ike Jones. And as she got involved with this black man, Ike Jones, during the early 1960s, which Jim Crow was still in effect, your Ingrid Stevens got married to Ike Jones in Mexico, and what she wanted to do was downplay the marriage in order to try to maintain her career. Now, your Ingrid Stevens, she saw what happened to Sammy Davis Jr.'s white wife, and she did not want to see her career wind up suffering as a result. So she lived very separate from her husband in order to keep people from being able to find out she was married in this interracial marriage in 1961. And she didn't want people to find out because, again, she found out what happened to Mae Britt when she married Sammy Davis Jr. And again, she didn't want to see her career go into a state of decline, so she kept the marriage very quiet. And this further exacerbated her long-time depression, and she was just extremely depressed about the whole situation because she could not have a relationship that she wanted, and her career was, even though it was going okay, she just did not feel any sort of real peace as related to her life. And this woman in crisis, who was struggling with many problems over the course of her life, really got just tired of living due to all the stress that she was suffering as a result of Hollywood, not having a real relationship with a real person, and not being able to connect with real people, and not being able to have the relationship she really wanted with the Ike guy. She couldn't be with the black man that she wanted, and because she couldn't have the life that she actually wanted to have, I believe that's what motivated your Ingrid Stevens to wind up taking her life by taking an overdose of drugs. And by taking that overdose of drugs, she wound up going out here and being found collapsed in her apartment by her roommate, who found her with a bandage over a cut from her chin, and also found her just unable to speak. She just could not function at all because the drugs had overtaken her, and she had just overdosed on these drugs and wound up taking her life. And the whole story of Ingrid Stevens is a very sad one, and it's a sad one because this woman never got to experience any sort of peace from her early days due to the fact that her mother led to her being on the road to being a woman in crisis because she abandoned the family. And as she abandoned the family, her daughter wound up becoming a woman in crisis. And this woman in crisis, while she had great success, never was able to experience any joy in this life, and that's why she was motivated to leave this world and go to the next one. That is the saddest part about reading about Ingrid Stevens' story, because while she found great success in Hollywood, she never found the love that she wanted, and she thought she could find love in acting, but the whole thing is that whole world was pretend, and what she wanted was real love. And when she found real love with a black man, she couldn't have that love due to the racism that went on in this country. And that was what led to her being miserable in the company of a roommate, and then wound up taking her own life. Sadly, when I read her story, it was just really a sombering story, and it just shows how sad life can be for a woman in crisis. Now, if you want to learn more about the struggles of women in crisis and what leads to them winding up on this road to being in crisis, you can pick up my book, The Woman Crisis, on Amazon.com. in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Woman Crisis at other online booksellers like Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. And if you want to see me talk about more historical Hollywood women in crisis, you can send a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App. And if I learn something about that celebrity, I will make that video for you. And if you want to pick up my screenplay about a struggling actress in Hollywood, all about Marilyn, you can find that screenplay on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format and other online booksellers in paperback. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback. From the author of the critically acclaimed book The Man Crisis comes The Woman Crisis. Learn why so many women have become lost in their quest to have it all in The Woman Crisis. Get your copy of The Woman Crisis in paperback at Amazon.com and online booksellers today.